Well, hello there folks, and welcome to what might just be the first of a series of videos on Monster Hunter Rise. As this is my first video, allow me to briefly introduce myself. My name is Lyodge, and I am a longtime veteran of the Monster Hunter series. Over the years, one of the things that has kept me so engaged in the Monster Hunter games is the huge variety of ways to play. Each of the 14 different weapon types can take a full game's worth of time to master, but additionally you can completely change the way some weapons play depending on how you have structured your build. In Monster Hunter Rise, with the addition of the Wirebug and Switch skills, the variety you can have in your playstyles has never been higher. And that brings us to the main theme of this potential video series. I want to share some of my experience to introduce you to fun and interesting ways to play the different weapon types in Monster Hunter Rise. As a disclaimer, this will not be a full-on weapon tutorial. There are already some fantastic tutorial videos out there that can explain everything you need to know to play any of the 14 different weapons. I will, however, demonstrate the basic techniques for the playstyle I will be showcasing, so as long as you understand the fundamentals of the weapon, you should be able to follow along. In addition, I'm not claiming to have any knowledge of what is considered meta in the game. I have the hope that the playstyles I will be showing will be viable enough to take down your target. However, I'm not concerned with setting any speedrun records. As mentioned earlier, I just hope to introduce some unique and interesting ways to play the game. Jumping into our main topic, this video will be all about the Gunlance. Out of all 14 weapons, the Gunlance is probably the one that I have the most experience with, as I have mained it in many previous games. However, that is not the reason I am starting with a video on the weapon. No, the reason I'm starting with the Gunlance is because of how absolutely excited I am with the new changes made to the weapon in Monster Hunter Rise. If you are even the slightest bit familiar with how the Gunlance works in Rise, you probably know exactly what change I am talking about. That's right, I am talking about the brand new Blast Dash switch skill. For this guide, I will be going over everything you need to know in order to run a Blast Dash focused Gunlance playstyle. Alright, before we get started here, let's go over a few things you might want to have on your build for a Blast Dash focused playstyle. For the Gunlance itself, I would highly recommend a normal type Gunlance as it gives you the most amount of shells to work with while airborne. For the armor skills, there aren't really any skills unique to this playstyle, but I would recommend skills that you would find on a standard Gunlance build. The guard skill is always nice to have as it allows you to tank almost any attack in a pinch. Level 5 might not be necessary, but I always like to have it. Artillery is probably your most necessary skill here because it is a flat-out damage boost to your primary means of attack, which is your shells. Evade Extender is a skill that has become extremely good in Monster Hunter Rise. The extra mobility it adds is always nice to have, even if you will be using lots of blast dashes. Load shells is also a staple in this build, as it simply gives you one extra shell to work with. The rest of the skills here are mostly just side effects of my armor pieces, but a few of them like Speed Sharpening, Quick Sheath, and Part Breaker are ones that are always nice to have as well. For our switch skills, we are obviously going to need the Blast Dash switch skill in the first slot, as it is the whole reason I am making this video. In the second slot, I'm going to be using the Hail Cutter skill. If you prefer, you can run Ground Splitter for bonus shell damage, but Hail Cutter will open up some cool combos for us, so I will be using it in this video. Finally, in the third slot, I will be using Quick Reload. This simply allows us to reload our shells faster than the other option. Now, let's get started with the basics for this playstyle. With the Blast Dash skill equipped, simply hold down the shelling button, and you will launch yourself forward. At the end of the dash, you can perform a downward slam. One cool thing about this is you can adjust your trajectory right before launching. If you hold down a direction, you can adjust your initial trajectory by about 30 degrees. That's what it would look like if you held all the way down to the left. Now if you hold all the way down to the right, it'll look like this. This is pretty handy if you need to make any last second adjustments right before launching yourself. One of the more exciting features of the Blast Dash is the ability to dash multiple times in the air. After dashing once, pressing ZR and A plus a direction will allow you to perform up to 2 additional dashes. With some practice, you can use this to maneuver yourself to your target wherever they are. Now chaining dashes together is awesome. But let me show you a technique that gives you more fine-grained control over your dashes. Anytime during a blast dash, you can fire off a shell. This stops you on the spot and gives you a little hype boost. With these extra stops, you can give yourself just a bit more time to react to a monster's behaviors. You can even shell multiple times to do a sort of hover on the spot, and this will let you finely time your dashes with your target's movements. On the subject of hovering, there are a few more cool things you can do with mid-air shells. With well-timed shells, you can keep yourself airborne at a constant altitude, useful for, say, doing some consistent damage to a monster's head or back. Alternatively, instead of timing the shells, if you fire them rapidly, you can propel yourself high into the sky, allowing you to reach something like an airborne Rathalos, or do this. Finally, we've got our ultimate aerial Gunlance finisher, the Hail Cutter. After you've used up all your shells and you're ready to return to the ground, activate the Hail Cutter to do a nice meaty hit and reload all your shells for a full burst. Now that is stylish. Now let's talk about combos. After landing a blast dash, you can follow up with one of your bread and butter moves, the full burst, by pressing the A button. From here, you can go into your standard Gunlance combos. If you are out of ammo, you can instead follow up a dash with a standard melee thrust combo with the X button. Now here's a little known fact. If you end your blast dash by first firing a shell and then performing the overhead slam, pressing X will instead perform a wide sweep into the worm stake combo. Finally, if you press X and A after your overhead slam, you can go straight into the worm stake. There is one more thing I would like to cover before we put these techniques into practice, on the subject of the Focus Armor skill. This skill has the effect of shortening your weapon's charge time, and it does have a noticeable effect on a Gunlance's charge shelling. So I was curious, and I wondered if this would speed up the activation speed of the blast dash, so I did a bit of testing. Based on the testing, it appears the skill does not affect the activation speed of the blast dash. After viewing this comparison side by side, it's probably fair to say that the focus skill does not make any substantial difference. There is, however, a way that you can speed up the activation speed of the blast dash. If you begin to perform a blast dash and let go of the button with perfect timing, it appears you can start the dash a few frames early, as shown in this comparison here. Do note, however, that if you release the button too early, you will instead just fire off a normal shell instead of activating the dash. Since holding the button down until the dash activates on its own does not take much longer, it's probably fine to just keep holding down the button if you want to be consistent, but this technique might still be good to know. Alright, so now it is time to show off this playstyle in the field. Currently playing, we have a hunt that I recorded against a Rathian. I'm going to let this video play out while periodically giving commentary on the different techniques we have learned for this playstyle. I have chosen Rathian as our target since she has a moveset that is nice and predictable while still providing enough challenge to make this video interesting. The first thing you will see me do is perform a blast dash right after jumping off my dog. This is one of my favorite ways to start a hunt just for style points. And right here, once the monster is roared, I immediately performed a guard edge. We didn't cover this move in the training area, but this is a fantastic silk bind that works on all Gunlance playstyles. I will be using this move many times during the hunt, such as right now, where I have used the move to counter Rathian's backflip. This is one of my favorite things to do against Rathian, as you can immediately follow up with a worm stake to do heavy damage to the tail. Right here, you can see the use of shell hovering to keep my distance from Rathian's tail whips before going in for the hit. In this particular scenario, I was able to quickly react to Rathian's backflip, firing a shell to stop myself short of getting hit by it. And here we have another guard edge to hit the tail with a worm stake. The fun fact is that the worm stake is actually a great tool for cutting tails. And right at this moment, I have used the guard edge defensively, as it lets you cancel out of the ending lag on some of your animations, which is really useful for blocking an attack at the last second. And of course, because I was recording, we have an uninvited guest who wanted to be on the video. Please hold for a second while I deal with this. I will take the opportunity here to show you that you can go straight into a blast dash after dismounting your wyvern ride. Here we have the use of the hill cutter as an aerial finisher. I'm pretty sure when I was recording this, I remembered at this point that I was supposed to be showing it off. We have a particularly artful use of mid-air maneuvering to dodge an attack at the last second. You may have seen me get smacked in the air earlier, but we don't need to talk about that. Right here we have another way to use the guard edge, which is to guard against Rathian's charge before turning around to hit the tail with another worm stake. And there we go, we've gotten a super awesome tail cut using the worm stake. Once again, here is another example of using the aerial shells to dodge over an attack. You'll notice how I waited a second before firing off my shells after landing my overhead slam. This is because I noticed that Rathian was knocked back and I wanted to make sure my shells would land. With the Gunlance, you can add a lot of delay into your combos. I believe that a key to becoming good with the weapon is having a lot of patience to time your big moves properly with the monster's movements. This is something I don't think I'm even that good with myself. We don't need to talk about what I did there. Alright, the hunt is nearly over here. Unfortunate that I was unable to finish off Rathian before she ran. While we're changing areas, you can see here that the blast dash is also super useful for map traversal. Look at that. Who needs to take the long way around? Alright, I think it's about time to end this. Kaboom! What a stylish finisher, and thus our hunt is concluded. Hello everyone. If you stuck with the video to this point, thank you very much. This video had me doing a lot of things for the first time, such as coming up with a script, doing a voiceover, editing the video, and even making a thumbnail. I know that the quality was pretty inconsistent as I don't have a lot of experience with the various aspects of video production. Still, if you have any feedback, I would love to hear it. Going forward, I would like this video to be part of a series where I show off playstyles for different weapon types. I do already have a hunt recorded for one more video, and I have a couple more ideas in mind for the near future. I'd like to real quick give a shout out to a bunch of the Monster Hunter YouTubers who inspired me to make my own video. Folks like Eric's Gaming, Gaijin Hunter, Rurikon, you all rock. Once again, to all you folks who found your way here, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you again soon.